Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Battlesector, and today we're going to continue on with our unit review with the Adepta Sororitas. Now, today's going to be a little bit different because I don't think these units have really changed enough to warrant showing an AI match with them. So if you wanted to see about the Celestian Sacresants and the Celestians, I would recommend that you just watch the original video that I've uploaded where I show off each one of these different loadouts. Now I'm still going to describe my thoughts on them because there are differences here, but if you want to see them getting used on an AI skirmish match, I'd watch the original one. What I'll do is at the end of the video I'll just add a attachment where I can show you what the empowered abilities do for these guys. But like I said, for the most part, they're not changed so much that I think I need to redo an AI match with them. But I do want to discuss the changes because they are pretty significant here. So for the Celestian Sacresants, they cost 100 points. Each model here has 65 health. They have 1 attack, 4 movement, 5 armor, and 5 evasion. So for that cost, you have a unit that has a hallowed mace, which has 1 attack. Each attack does 22 to 30 damage with an armor piercing of 6, has a 90% melee accuracy. So these guys can definitely do some good damage for you. They also all have bolt pistols, which will allow you to get quite a few attacks off if somebody decides to try to charge these guys. That will trigger a reaction fire, and given that you have 5 guys all using 8 attacks, so that's 40 attacks, you can actually suppress people with these. And likewise, if you're fighting somebody like Hormagaunts, Scarabs, things like that, you're probably going to want to use the bolt pistol to kill multiple units instead of the hallowed mace, because you can kill a maximum of 5 units with the hallowed mace, whereas with the bolt pistol, especially against swarm units, you can actually get more kills, especially at the optimal range. Now, when you have their shields on, which you have to do because you can't turn them off, that'll give you a 15% damage mitigation. They have the Oath of Protection, which is the same as what the Celestians have here, but it actually seems like this ability has been broken. So unless I'm misunderstanding how this works, when they rework these units, it doesn't seem to be getting triggered appropriately. And I have noticed that on multiplayer matches with other factions, especially the Necrons, where they'll have an HQ unit, because what this is supposed to be is like a bodyguard ability. So you'll put these guys or the Celestians next to one of your HQ commanders, which would be these guys here. You use this ability, and then what it's supposed to do is, as long as the HQ commander unit is within 1 tile of either of these 2 squads, they're supposed to switch position with them, and that would be either a melee or a ranged attack. Sometimes there's variants of this for other factions, and then it's for either melee or range, like an either or, whereas with the Adepta Sororitas it's supposed to be either of those options. And then what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to swap places with them, and then they'll take the attack, and that'll allow you to help keep your HQ commander units alive. And then when you're using this ability, these guys get an additional armor, so now they're up to 6 armor, and then they'll get 10% bonus HP, so now you're up to it buffs your HP. You can give them additional buffs if you have, say, the hospital there, giving them 10% bonus HP on top of that. Now all of a sudden you're giving these guys 20% HP, which can be great. Now, you're pretty unlikely to do this, but you could potentially buff their HP even further by giving them a Litany of Devotion, because that'll give you an additional 15% bonus HP for 2 turns. So you can make these guys become extremely tanky if you need to hold down some high-value target that you know you want to use their zone of control to really punish somebody, or if this thing would actually activate appropriately to help you protect your hero. Because what would be nice is if you set up multiple Celestian Sacresants next to your Canoness, you know, one attack would go through and then it would warp in and take this, and then the following turn, or the following unit would attack, then the other one would swap positions with them. That's how it's supposed to go to help keep these guys, your HQ units, alive, but it just doesn't seem to be working. All it's doing is giving them bonus armor and HP, which isn't the end of the world, because there are times when you know they're going to get attacked, and that's nice to just have them there. Like if you're having an assault squad, for example, and you're locked into melee with each other, and you're both going to take pretty significant damage when you're fighting. Well, just move them down there, and if you can't get the charge attack off, you just comment down and you pop the Oath of Protection, and then they're going to attack you. You're going to take reduced damage, and they're going to struggle to get through your bonus HP and just barely do a little bit of damage to these guys here, and then you'll get the counterattack, and then the following turn you can attack regularly, and then you can heal, and that can keep these guys alive. Now, the things that are different are these other abilities. So they do get access to the Spirit of the Martyrs. This is just a passive ability. And so what it does is every time one of the units in this squad is killed, it'll increase the damage of the remaining units by 50%. And this can stack up to 4 times. So, you know, 1 unit's down, these guys are getting 50% damage. 2 units are down, these remaining 3 units are doing a bonus 100% damage. You know, 3 models are down, 150 damage for the remaining, and then if there's only 1 unit left, then that 1 unit's doing 200% bonus damage. So you can get an idea of how this could be powerful. So, especially with the Hallowed Mace, because, you know, it does decent melee damage. But this ability is even more powerful on the Celestians, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Because today I'm going to do a video with both of these guys kind of together, because they have very similar abilities, and my thoughts are pretty similar. And like I said, because their gameplay is still pretty much the same, it doesn't change a whole lot. I'm not going to show a full video. But the other abilities they have, and this is what makes these guys even better, is they do have access to the Shield of Faith. And so with every weapon attack they suffer, they'll end up activating a Shield of Faith, and now it can stack up to 3 times. So, you know, now all of a sudden you're getting 1.8 ranged and melee armor that's lasting for 2 turns. So now you're almost up to 7 armor. You're getting 15% damage reduction. If you use the Oath of Protection, you're now moving it up an additional armor with some bonus HP. You can have additional damage mitigation if you're using the Medicus Ministorum, because now you're getting 10% damage reduction through that, plus bonus HP. So now you're getting 25% of the damage just reduced right off the top. And because these guys are so tanky, chances of them getting up to 3 stacks is pretty likely. And as they're suffering some model losses, you're getting the Spirit of the Martyr to get activated, and now if you can end up giving them bonus attacks, you can use their Divine Inspiration, which converts the Shield of Faith to momentum. Now all of a sudden, if you're getting multiple attacks with these guys, as they're getting, you know, 100 to 150 increased damage output, you can start to see how these guys can do a lot of damage here. Now the Celestians, they cost 75. Each model has 65 health, 1 attack, 4 movement, 4 armor, 5 evasion. So not significantly more expensive than the Battle Sisters, only 10 points here, but that 10 points makes a big difference, especially with their default weapons. So again, if this Oath of Protection was working appropriately, then I think there are situations where you could make an argument for bringing these guys out. But because it's not, bringing a Sisters of Battle with their bolters is a way more cost-effective thought process, better decision than bringing out the Celestians with their bolt pistol. And the reason for that is because the Sisters of Battle are going to have both crack grenades, frag grenades, and then still have the blessed ammo. So you're 10 points cheaper than the Celestians with the default weapon, and you have a lot more versatility. So it just makes more sense for you to use a Battle Sister in that situation. However, once you start to get into their other weapon kits, now all of a sudden you can start to get into situations where it makes sense to bring the Celestians. So they also have access to a basic flamer, and now this is one of the basic flamers in the game that actually has a range of 2, so that's not bad. And they also have access to the multi-melta, so it's like you can get them an anti-swarm infantry build, or you can end up getting them into an anti-heavy build. And so these guys also have the Oath of Protection. All the same things are the same between the Celestian Sacresants in this, but once you start to get these other weapons, you know, either the flamer or the multi-melta, now all of a sudden getting 50% increased damage per model death is pretty substantial, because now you can all of a sudden start to turn these basic flamers into almost heavy flamers. You can get substantial damage output increases with your melta guns, especially if you end up throwing on the tier 1 ability, which gives you plus, I think, 20 accuracy. Now all of a sudden you're going to have 100% accuracy with these multi-meltas plus a 10% crit chance, plus potentially 50% damage per model killed here to increase the damage. And you end up throwing up your increased damage and armor piercing red ability. Then you can increase their damage even further, and then you can also have them, because they have 4 armor, so if they get attacked and suffer some losses, you can start getting those Shield of Faith. And again, that's the same ability that the Celestian Sacresants have, and you can convert that over to momentum. Now again, all the buffs that you can use with the Hospitaller apply to these guys as well, so it's not uncommon. Let's say if I'm playing Tyranids or Astra Militarum and they just have tons of infantry in front of me, well, I'll unload a transport vehicle with a basic flamer in there, and then I'll have a Hospitaller in that vehicle as well, and now I'll give these Celestians double attacks. And then if you end up having, like, let's say a wall of 6 guardsmen in front of you here, you can put 1 Celestian with the flamer here, and then you can attack through them, and that will almost it'll for sure wipe out this guy, and then almost wipe out these ones. You can move them over another 1 attack here, and now you're attacking another 3 units, and so that's going to get them substantial momentum buffs there. And once you start to get that increased damage, that's significant amount. And you can, if you have a Sister Superior over there, you can end up increasing their range damage by 1 if you're giving them the flamer, and now all of a sudden you're effectively increasing their damage output by 25 to 33%, which is nothing to sneeze at, because then you can end up doing full squad wipes with these flamers, even against powerful units like the Necron Immortals, warriors, filleted ones. You'll start doing substantial damage to not Astra Militarum, the Blood Angels. So now all of a sudden you're having significant damage output with your flamers. And then, if you're wiping out multiple squads, you throw down this Litany of Devotion, and now you got 30 additional momentum to potentially, if you've wiped out potentially upwards of 6 squads with these attacks here, you can now surge and get a third attack. And if you're attacking vehicles, 3 attacks with these multi-meltas is not a bad situation to be in. And you can now see how you're really getting a ton of damage output with these guys. Less so with the Litany of Battle. If you're doing the multi-melta here, generally it doesn't make sense for you to sacrifice one of your action points with her to use that if you're doing a multi-melta build, but certainly if you're using the bolters or the flamer, it makes a lot of sense. And then obviously with the Sacresants, it makes sense because you're giving them plus 15% damage increase here with 5 units. And then if you have multiple guys here, because it's within every unit within 1 square, if you have multiple here, then obviously you can see how you can start getting some pretty major damage outputs here, especially if you're giving them extra AP. So that gets to just be really crazy amounts of damage. But again, I think the bolter really doesn't make a lot of sense. You'd want to bring out the Sisters of Battle way more, but definitely the flamer or the melt-a-gun is what you are going to be bringing these Celestians out for. And like I said, these Celestian Sacresaints, you're either going to use them to tank or to be powerful melee units to hold the line while the rest of your units are getting a bunch of kills. And to also lock down high value targets to force them to attack you. The big thing is you want to make sure you don't get their rear exposed, but do be aware that the Oath of Protection is not working as intended at this current state. So hopefully that'll get fixed, but we'll see how it goes. Now, I will upload the video just to show the empowered ability, just to show you the Oath of Protection and what happens with the Blessed Ammo when that is empowered. And then if you had stacks of Shield of Faith and you empowered the Divine Inspiration, it just increases the momentum gains by 12. Instead of 10, so it's nothing significant there. So I don't really know why you would empower the Divine Inspiration, but that's how that works. So I will attach this video here, and we'll bring this episode to a close. So a little bit quicker episode with these two units. Like I said, if you're want to see them in an AI matchup, then definitely look at my original posting with the focused review of these two units. But I just wanted to go over the changes with their abilities, but in terms of their overall gameplay, other than this Martyrs affecting the amount of damage that the Flamer Multigun is going to do, the rest of the stuff for these units is the same. So okay, I figured I would just show what happens when you use these Celestians here. So if you empower their abilities, you will get the Oath of Protection, and that gives you 3 armor, 25% bonus HP, and has a 1-turn cooldown compared to the default version, which gives you +1 armor and 10% bonus HP. Now that same thing will happen to the Celestian Sacresants if you use those instead, because it's the same ability. So they'll get the 3 armor and the 25 bonus health, and then the reduced cooldown. Now if you are using the Blessed Ammo, what this effectively does is increasing your range damage to 60%, and it decreases your grace chance by 15 when you're attacking. It also reduces the cooldown down to 2 turns, which is a 1-turn cooldown, and it also increases the ammunition you have here. So as you see, normally it says 1 out of 2. That's because I've used 1 already, and so I'd have 1 more attack. But if you end up using this, then it would increase the ammunition up to 5. So then even though it would say 1 out of 5, it would actually give me 3 additional ammunition for the Blessed Ammo. That's how it works similarly with the Battle Sisters if you're using their grenades. But as you can see, very powerful abilities here, especially once you've stacked up some of these bonus HPs. You know, she's got 25% bonus HP. Well, if you use that empowered ability, now you're going to get 50% HP, and now all of a sudden these guys are like little mini heroes sitting there just tanking for you. I recommend that you hardly ever bring these Blessed Ammo bolters, because your Battle Sisters are cheaper and just a better overall version. But the big thing is, like we were talking about before, is the Spirit of the Martyrs. Both the Sacresants and the Celestians have this ability. And effectively, whenever the model is killed, the rest of the units in the squad will get plus 50% damage. So 1 unit's done, then all of a sudden you have 4 guys getting 50% increased damage. Now with the bolter, that's not a huge deal, but when you're using something like the Meltagun, now all of a sudden you're doing you know, an additional 50% per guy killed. So, you know, you lose 2 models. Now all of a sudden you're getting 100% damage increase by each one of these 3 models. So where the break-even point, like I said, I'm not quite sure. The same thing happens with the Flamers. So I think ideally it's best if you suffer maybe 1 casualty to help you get these guys up. And then the Sacresants, you know, obviously they become progressively more tanky the more attacks they take, but then as they start to lose models, then it increases their melee damage output, because they also have the Spirit of the Martyrs here. So it just makes them be more viable. And then again, remember, you can kind of alternate that sweet spot to use that Rites of Intercession to give you some bonus damage, and then you throw on top of that bonus, you know, 50%. Now all of a sudden you could throw on Righteous Judgment. You can get, you know, 15% damage plus some armor piercing. And, you know, you need a little trouble getting them into where they need to move. Well, give them some movement. And then if you're going to be shooting, you know, you can increase your range accuracy with those multi-meltas here, and then give them additional critical hit chances as well. So you can do some very powerful buffs here to get the most out of your Celestians. So I hope that helps. I figured even though I wasn't going to show a whole AI matchup with them, because they haven't significantly changed from the basic. If you wanted to see a full AI match using the Celestians and Sacresants, you know, you can check out the original playlist with the Adepta Sororitas, because that'll show how they do their original attacks. But I did want to show off a little bit of their empowered abilities here, just to make sure that it's the same. So I hope that helps. And if it does, please give my channel a like and subscribe to encourage me to post more content for you. Have a great day.